You're listening to How I See It, hosted by Han. You guessed it, that's me. I am here to motivate and inspire you with guests from all different industries and backgrounds. So get ready for personal stories of success, of growth, full of highs and lows, and of course, unapologetic realness. This is How I See It. Okay, you guys, I am very excited because I have Jessica Ashley Gill here today. She is the Chief Content Officer at To Be Magnetic, the #1 manifestation brand. She's also the co-host of the Expanded podcast, which has 40 million plus downloads, which is insane. Crazy. I'm so excited to have you on. Yay. I have heard the most amazing things about not just the podcast, but To Be Magnetic. I think you guys are absolutely changing people's lives and perceptions. I had Karen on the podcast when I was in New York. Karen. She couldn't stop talking about you guys. So I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to come on, to talk about it. We have such a beautiful community. I think whenever you have something like manifestation as the log line, there's either skeptics or people are like, oh yeah, I've been manifesting forever. But I think the thing that really sets To Be Magnetic apart, or like that I really anchored down into that feels so different, is it's all internal healing work through the lens of achieving your goals, manifesting what you want. But it's like, let's take an accurate peek at what is actually happening behind the scenes, like under the hood of the car, and what is in the way of like, why can't people hit their goals? What is the self-sabotaging belief system? Where do they not have expansion? And then using the method again and again, seeing people like create their dream lives is just the coolest thing ever.
So cool. And like that just triggered me to ask you, like, I'm assuming there is a healing journey of your own involved. Yeah. If like, not only you believe it and are doing it and helping people get there every day, but like, what did that journey look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the healing journey is never ending. Like every year, every week is like a whole new layer. You're becoming a whole new person. But for me, ushering into To Be Magnetic, I started my career in television and film, producing, casting, a lot of stuff in unscripted and reality TV. And I think my like vision that I had at the time as a kid was just like, I was so moved by movies. Like when I saw a movie, it expanded my reality. I saw to believe something new is possible. I would get chills and I was like, I want to give people this feeling. Like this meant so much to me, seeing this story, hearing this story in this way. I want to give people that message. So I was like, oh, great. I just have to make movies. Like that's the way to do it. And as I was in the industry, I mean, I think at some point I'll probably come back around to doing at least something in that vein. But at the time, like a lot of the jobs and shows and things that I was working on, I was like, this is taking so long from hearing the story that feels impactful to like actually getting out and like launching it. And it's almost like it's not quick enough. Yeah. Like there has to be a different way. And so I was kind of going through my own spiritual awakening at the time. I'd moved to LA. I was living in New York before, moved to LA, fresh out of a breakup, kind of trying to refigure out what I wanted to do in my career. And I found this brand To Be Magnetic. And it was really the thread that connected the spirituality with the psychology, because I was down rabbit holes on both ends. And, in therapy, I was kind of like hitting a wall. I was like, yeah, but I want to go deeper. Like, what's my inner child story with this? And TBM really had the framework to be like, this is what's going on in your inner child. This is what's happening in all phases. And this is why it's impacting your manifestations. And I was like, mind blown. This is insane. And so I actually used the process to figure out what I wanted to do in my career next, because I was just feeling that urge for something new. Yeah. And I was like, maybe it's in wellness, maybe it's in psychology, spirituality. And I was really open to everything, but I kept getting really strong pings of intuition that like, there's something with this brand. And in TBM manifestation, we say like, do not manifest a very specific thing, manifest something like that thing. So you're not going to manifest Ryan at the office, but you're going to manifest a guy that has the qualities like Ryan at the office. Yeah. People have free will.
Like a feeling and like a situation rather than specific.
Yes, 100%. People have free will. Companies have free will. And also it's not trusting the universe to say like, I know what's the best for me. What if there's something even better? Yeah. So just set yourself up for success to say like, I want the essence of this. And even in doing so, it happened that To Be Magnetic was hiring for a podcast producer at the time. I had produced my own podcast. I had been producing casting for so long. And I was like, okay, let me test it out. Let me see how this goes. And within like a month in, I was like, let's launch this workshop. Let's redesign this. Let's move this.
That's
and
so
so
cool.
now I get to tell those stories that were so moving, but from real people actually going through the transformation in real time. So it's just wild to see how that same core essence of what I wanted as a kid is now manifest into this.
So
role.
cool. So cool. Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
thank you.
I know you mentioned you had like a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
Like where were you before then? Like what was like the mental health then and like what was the rock bottom?
So I would say it was a stripping down. It's interesting because I feel like a lot of people are going through this on different levels this year in particular. There's a lot of stripping. But anything I was clinging on for external validation, clinging to for control, things that I was leaning on outside of myself to build up my self-worth were all just like stripped. It was like the relationship, the jobs, even the place that I was renting. They're like, oh, sorry, you can't like live here anymore. And I was like, what the frick, universe? Like, what am I supposed to do with all of this? What is the meaning? And really, I wasn't looking at my own authentic magic. Like, what was the thing that I really believed in myself? Where was my self-worth with all of this? How do I rebuild that from the ground up and not lean it on these external things? So if these things in life move, my core isn't shaken, how it was during this spiritual awakening. And this was, I would say, like pre-Saturn return. So this is like young 20s.
Yeah.
Like 25. I think that's kind of like a rebirth era for so many people where, you know, you're not a child anymore. You're out in the real world. You're kind of defining yourself. For so long, you've defined yourself based off your peers and your social groups. And now it's like, wait, do I want those social groups? Do they align with me? Who am I now? I feel like throughout your 20s, you are transforming at a rapid pace.
Yeah.
And so that was really the piece where I had to be like, okay, what is not working and who am I?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like I was very similar in some ways in my own journey. I was almost like anxiously almost attached to the things around me because I think for me, it gave me like a sense of control to like do the things that other people were doing or like to listen to like their perception. And I think that violation of like my authenticity made me incredibly sick. Like sometimes God, the universe has to like remove shit in a really drastic way to get you to like see stuff. And like for me, I feel like it was a compilation, but I think it was like a breakup. I was just feeling okay because I had some person that was like with me. I was like almost codependent in a really weird way, but I'm very independent. And I think that's such a like misconception that like people who have like codependent tendencies are like very needy or dependent when really like for me it shows up as like hyper independent still.
It's almost like trying to convince the part of you that does need them for that attention that they don't need them.
Yeah.
In building up the hyper independence instead of like, I'm good on my own. We can connect. This is great. I can go do my own thing.
Yes, totally.
It's like that spacious push and pull.
What was it that really turned the needle on like some of these things for you?
You know, it's kind of two things. It was understanding where I was putting the blame on other people because the relationship that crumbled mid-20s, I was in a relationship 2 years before that where I was like, oh, that person was toxic and I can't believe I settled for them and blah, 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 blah. And I had to be like, I chose that relationship for 5 years. I decided to be in that relationship. I was in that. Why? Well, I had to be getting some benefit out of that. What was the benefit I was getting? Like, did I want to be chosen? Did I, get connected to a peer group? Did I feel scared to be on my own? Like, what was the thing about that? Were there dynamics that were similar to my parents' dynamics?
Yeah.
What was the story?
Or all of the above.
Yeah. Check. And I think I had to really take my power back and like, I'm not the victim to these circumstances or even any breakup. I'm not the victim to a breakup. This happened. We were disconnected. Okay, what is the lesson here? Like, where was I playing small in this dynamic? Where was I giving away my power? Where was I giving away my sense of self? Like, I feel like it had to be whatever this person wanted, and I would shapeshift into, their perfect person instead of saying like, what do I want?
It's really painful to like have to ask yourself like what you actually want you don't know. For me, like it manifested in like depression and anxiety and like feeling really lost. I didn't know who my authentic self was or like what my authentic desires were.
1,000%. I don't even think I really knew until my late 20s.
Yeah.
Like I think I like kind of thought I knew, but it wasn't until like a continuing questioning of that and an exercise of like catch and release. Like I think I like this thing. Okay, let me stay a little detached. oh yeah, this feels true. Your body will tell you when it's a yes, when it's a hell yes. At least for me, it presents as like extreme excitement, like peace in my heart, peace in my stomach, like real calmness. And I'm like, wow, yeah. Okay.
Well, and everything starts to kind of align. Like, it doesn't mean it's perfect and it doesn't mean it's easy, but like it does kind of like fall into place in a way where you're not like forcing puzzle pieces to go together.
Yes. Yes.
How does the manifestation kind of come into inner healing? Because this is something I feel that I really don't understand, and I really wanted to talk to you about today, because everything we hear online about manifesting is like manifesting your dream life, like manifesting what you want, which is great, but like you two guys talk about it in a very specific way that involves inner healing.
You are manifesting all the time, whether you're conscious of it or not. You have, different parts of you inside. If you think of internal family systems parts work, if you're familiar with that, it's basically the idea that you have your higher self, the self that, has that inner peace, has that calm, knows what's best for you, makes the decision out of your highest good versus your ego's highest good or a protective mechanism. And if we are not aware and bring to awareness all the inner child parts that are actually trying to get their needs met, who take the driver's seat, then they will be dictating what you're manifesting. They will be blocking what you're manifesting because either it doesn't feel safe or they're trying to get a corrective experience from childhood. So for people who are, let's say, manifesting their dream partner and they keep calling in the partner that's avoidant and they're not giving love and they're not, connecting the way, and they're like, oh, it's just all these people, I keep calling the wrong thing. Is there a part of them that maybe didn't feel seen, nurtured, attuned to as a child? And so instead of saying, wow, I didn't get this and I really want this in this next chapter, so I'm going to have a little bit more depth and intimacy into my relationships and stop settling for the people that maybe feel familiar but aren't towards my path of highest good. It's almost like they're drawn to the same dynamic that they are trying to avoid.
Yeah.
Because that's the autopilot. We're wired for safety, we're wired for familiarity, and if that familiarity is not in alignment with our highest good or what we actually want, that's when you're not manifesting what you actually want.
Yeah. The first part of what you're describing is like the awareness, right? Because a lot of people aren't aware that they're calling in the same as their parents. Like, this is like so story of my life. I'm very good at like looking in the mirror and calling myself out on my shit. But then it's like the awareness is there. How do we start to integrate? And I think for me, with my mental health, at least, I've gotten really good at being uncomfortable and making like the foreign quote unquote choice, even though it feels like I shouldn't do it. I know it's aligned with my authentic desires. Relationships and career, even for some people, is much harder. How do you guys get people to actually take the steps to integrate?
Make the change. We think of it as like a triangle. There's 3 things that have to be in motion in order for your manifestations to come through. It's unblocking those limiting beliefs, unblocking any parts of the nervous system that doesn't feel safe for it. It's expanding your subconscious to see, to believe that that's even possible. Like if you were attracting a partner that's similar to, let's say, your dad's dynamic growing up, do you have examples of men that are different? Do you see them in real life? Do you actually believe that they're out there, or is it just theory in your head? Like expanders are so huge to allow you to even, oh, wait, my friend like Susan has that husband. Okay, now I can see that is they do exist. It is possible they are out there. And then the last piece is aligned action. And with aligned action comes stepping through that fear. So it's almost like you are communicating your level of subconscious self-worth through these 3 things. And with the unblocking piece, which is so heavy in this work, we have what's called deep imaginings, but they're self-hypnosis meditations that we include somatic exercises. They include EMDR exercises.
So
they
cool.
include self-hypnosis, theta waves. Like we basically were like talking to all the experts. We're like, what are the things that are going to move the needle the most in the brain to actually rewire new connections?
Yeah.
And in that, we have a process where we help people unblock. So it's like bringing forward that memory, understanding the roots, bringing that to the surface, seeing where that's now playing out in reality, and be like, okay, you see the assumption you may have made as a kid that this was the only way of doing things. let's plant the seed of a new one. Now can we start to look for that in reality? And when you're doing that and you're giving healing to your inner child, maybe even we have a deep imagining called validation, which is so huge to be like, yeah, that was a really shitty experience. That sucked. Can we feel your feelings through that? Can we actually sit with the part of you that feels terrified right now? And doing that work and attuning to all of your parts in that way makes such a transformation, not only in your brain, but then in your behavior.
That's so good. I love that you brought up like the expanded part of it, because I actually was going to ask you like why you guys called it that. And I think that expanding the narrative in your head to believe that you're capable of doing something different is so powerful. I always say like, I mean, a huge branding word here at the podcast is like being unapologetic. And I think you have to be like unapologetic about believing that you have the capacity to change and like create a new story, because it's really fucking scary to create a new story for yourself. But again, like I think we get really comfortable in uncomfortable. I thought that I was never going to feel peace. I thought I was always going to like have chaos, but I like got used to it and I convinced myself that I was okay. And I think it's hard to create that new story, but you have to like expand your vision for your life.
1,000%. I mean, even like self-identifying with certain things can be those blockers, right? The difference between saying I'm an anxious person versus I'm experiencing anxiety right now. How do you relate to your sense of identity through the lens of an empowering state, or how do you relate to it in disempowering? If you're constantly going around saying I'm an anxious person, you're going to look for more evidence that that's true all the time. If you're saying I'm experiencing anxiety right now, let me go sit with what's happening, that's just one of the things you're experiencing as human, and you can move through it. But it helps you to see all the spaces that you're not anxious.
Totally.
Because you're not just self-identifying with that one title.
Yeah, I say it all the time in regard to my own healing, but it's like I had made depression a part of my identity. And I think it kept me in a space of not believing that I had the capacity to heal. I think that is the first step in being able to say like, actually, this doesn't have to be who I am. It can be like a part of my experience sometimes, but like removing it as like something I have to be empowered me to think differently.
With your depression too, did you feel like when you started to move through it in different ways, did you find other emotions kind of stuck underneath of them? Like, did you find a lot of anger or fear that was like right beneath the surface?
Oh, for sure. I think it was just, like I said, like a deep like violation of like authenticity. Like whether it was like the chaos of my home growing up or the trauma I had experienced, like it doesn't matter the origin. It was that like all of the things plus like the self narratives over and over again, like kind of ingraining the self-hatred, like made me super depressed. So I think like being able to like sit, actually like have some self-awareness, like look in the mirror and say like, you're perpetuating your own misery. Yes, it sucked what happened, but like you're literally like 24 now. This was when I was like 23, 24. Like, come on. Like, are you going to be miserable for the rest of your life, or can there be something different? I think the moment I actually like took ownership, it actually like empowered me in a way to keep moving forward. And it's, you know, it's painful to hear that, especially when you're in like a dark place. You're like, you don't get it. And I think I was in that place for a very long time. But I think what it uncovered is that I was just like this really hurt person. Like, I think I came off angry, but it really was just hurt. The way it manifested for me was in just like a deep depression because I wasn't living authentically. I told myself that depression was my authenticity, but that was just such a lie.
Yeah. It's so interesting too with depression specifically. There's a lot of threads of when you feel powerless or you feel like you're in a situation that you can't control, whether that's from childhood or in your adult self, and then you're angry about it. And instead of getting a space to express healthy anger, you feel like, well, I'm powerless. There's nothing I can do. Let me stuff it down. And when you stuff it down, there comes the depression. Yeah. So it makes so much sense that you were like, I'm angry and now I'm depressed because I literally can't move through this emotion. You feel immobilized in so many ways.
Well, I think there's an element of it too that's like you don't like, there's no point. And if there's no point and there's no purpose, like I don't really know what to live for anymore, you know? And so I think like that's what it is. Like it's like, and you know, this is why I talk so much about like involving like your purpose into like what you do, whether it's your career or like doing something outside of like work. Like if you don't have purpose or like mission in some way, like it is really hard to like navigate the human experience. And that's what I love what you guys do too, because I think like being able to believe that you have the power to like call things in is not woo, it's actually neuroplasticity.
Yeah. There's tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of examples of people who have done it. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're like, I don't know if I believe, test it out. You know what I mean? Like, what
Nothing
do you have to lose? Yeah.
In the beginning phases that people are kind of like in that spot where they're like, fuck, this is really uncomfortable. Like, what is your piece there for people listening and also like your guys' clients?
To move through, yeah. We have a rock bottom workshop, which is honestly where so many people start. They usually find us in a rock bottom because they're like, nothing else has worked. Like,
Yeah.
The first thing in moving through the rock bottom or moving through that low point is just opening the crack of potential that there could be a gift here. Even if everything feels like it's gone to shit, you don't feel good, you can't pick yourself up, it feels like hope is gone. What if there was one silver lining? Could you have gained anything from this breaking down? Could you have gained anything from this? Even if it's, wow, I've gone through a really hard thing. Like, I have survived, I'm alive right now, and I have survived a really fucking hard thing. That's a gift, So starting to open that up, and then the validation part is huge, because if you can't attune to that inner child part that is feeling that hurt, that anger, that whatever it is, because maybe they had a really challenging experience growing up, or even in adulthood, they experienced a big trauma or something happened. If you can't attune to that part and really see it and hold space for it and have compassion, be like, you know what, it makes perfect sense that you feel like this. And just getting to vent and then watch yourself reparent yourself in that moment and be like, oh, I see that little kid in me. I see that hurt. Like, you're okay. That is the first step towards getting out of it.
I think people avoid that because it's so painful to actually like sit in the feelings of things that have happened.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was like, well, duh, like that happened. This is how I am. Like, I'm very I intellectualized a lot. And I was just like, yeah, this, which makes sense for this. And this is why I did this. And of course I would do this. So yeah, I get it. But there was not like very many moments where I felt like you actually like got to be sad about it, And I think like a huge part of being able to like move through and like create hope, because that's what like the depression or anxiety or whatever people's rock bottom is like, it's a lack of hope.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to actually just like feel and be like, okay, like this, like I'm allowing emotion to move through my body. Like, I'm upset and sad. Like, I now feel like I can like release and move forward. But when you're like holding all of it in, it feels like you can't move forward almost. Or it's like this subconscious thing. Like, you can't move forward unless it comes through. My therapist always used to say like, feelings buried alive never die. And I resonate so strongly because I feel like I was never given like a safe space to like be emotional. And I think that's for a lot of people too, being able to like express feeling and not view it as like weak, but more so necessary for change was game changing.
I mean, getting to express or emote in a safe space, in a container, in your room, in your shower, whatever it is, to feel through that cycle of emotion is so key in moving through your blocks. Like, on a somatic level, we have an exercise in there where you first pinpoint where you feel whatever emotion you're feeling in the body. You're like, okay, where do you feel it? Don't try to stuff it. Don't try to clench it. Just, okay, let it feel its full thing out. Now find one spot in your body that you feel peace or calm. And for me, I don't know why, it's usually my calves. Like, that's the only, if I'm feeling tension or anxiety, my calves somehow are just like super chill. So I'll feel into the peace and the serenity in my calves. And the titration between going through the two things you start to recalibrate your body to the calmer part.
Wow.
So it's like, even in that, you can start moving back into your body and be like, okay, this is what the sensation feels like here.
Yeah. I feel like a huge part of like being able to figure out what our authentic desires are is like being able to be in your body, feel your feelings, so that you can like hear your intuition. A lot of people may be listening right now being like, okay, I get it, but like, how do I figure out what my authentic desires are if I have a similar story to Jessica or Hannah, where like I didn't know what my authenticity was, or I've been making decisions from a place that's not in my authentic desires.
Yeah. I feel like authenticity is such a buzzword, and yet it is the most accurate to like where we need to put our guidepost. I would say if you feel so disconnected from it, you feel so off the beaten path, experiment. Try to listen to like the tiniest little pull, the tiniest little thread, the smallest way that you feel interested in doing anything. Maybe it's going to a specific coffee shop. Maybe it's going to a certain hike. Maybe it's ordering a certain food item on the menu. But what are those little ways you can just start to like dance with what does it feel like when my body is telling me yes to something and then me following it in very small ways. And I even notice it like when I go make my lunch, I'll like look in the fridge and instead of going on autopilot, I'm like, okay, body, like, do you feel drawn to anything in here? Is anything like jumping out more than the other? And if I do, I'll go and eat that. And sometimes it's not like the lunch I thought I was going to eat, or the healthiest option or whatever, but it's what my body is asking for in that moment. And the key thing is that pause, because sometimes you can just go for the comfort food, and that's not really what I'm saying. It's going for the thing that your body is naturally like, I need sustenance from this, or I need support here. And listening to those little cues first, and then your authenticity. It's almost like widening the portal for it to come through. Like it might be really clogged up. So where tiny little threads you can start dropping it through now, and then it will widen the more you listen to yourself.
Yeah, I think that the pause is so important too, especially in regard to like our interpersonal relationships as well, because when you're operating from autopilot, like you are going to act in ways that are repetitive and based in pattern. I mean, it's hard to flex like pause.
Yeah.
But even in these small ways or big ways in relationships, like I feel like I've had to like force myself to like think before I react. I mean, we're taught this from a very young age, yet no one practices it. And think about like, why is this reaction popping up? Is it actually rooted in my authentic desire, or is it a protective measure, or is it my ego? Pausing has changed my life. And it sounds so simple.
Yeah.
It's not. It's hard.
No.
It's simple, but it's hard, I'll say.
Yes. I completely agree. The pause is where you have the opportunity to make a change. It's where you're not now beholden to the stories of your past, but you can start to create the new future. It's in that pause. We have a concept in TBM called tests. The founder, Lacey Phillips, really like coined this out of nowhere just because she saw it in the practice so much. And she was like, this is a huge component of when people are making the changes, when they're doing the 3 parts of the triangle, people will start to get tests, which basically just means the opportunities that used to come at you are coming at you again, and you have the choice to now make a different choice, right? So it's the same nagging person that you used to have to, yell at or get in a fight with or whatever, but instead this time you're like, okay, I'm really working on this. How can I respond to this more from my higher self, from a place of integration? How can I make a different choice here? Because I know if I engage in that with that person, I'm going down a rabbit hole that's going to hijack my energy. I'm going to be annoyed for the day. I'm not going to, be on my best at work anymore. How can I take a pause and have a different interaction here?
Yeah.
And you will get so many of these tests on small and big scales when you are in this transition of trying to rewire your brain towards your highest good.
Yeah. And I feel like not enough people talk about how hard it is. It actually is really fucking hard.
Yeah.
And especially if it has to do with like a romantic relationship or your friends or your family, like it's fucking hard. People don't realize how long it takes too. And they're really, really hard on themselves. I think like looking back now, like for me, it took like, and I'm not perfect. I mess up, but I would say like, I'm pretty proud that like 75 to 80% of the time I like respond the way I want to. And I think it's because of the pause, but it takes like honestly years to be able to practice the pause. But what do you tell people who are like in the midst of it, who are being like really hard on themselves?
Shame is not a good motivator. So it makes sense why you might want to shame yourself in these interactions. And it's a very valid frustration. But if you're really trying to make yourself get better at it, shaming yourself to do it faster or better is actually not going to help you. Yeah, it's counterproductive. The thing that will actually shift it the most is a lot more compassion. So in those moments you're like, oh, I can't believe I reacted that same old way again. Be like, okay, it's actually more beneficial for you to have reacted your old way again and then to say to yourself, okay, I see you. I understand. You tried, but that was really hard. And that makes sense why you reacted that way. When that test presents again, you're going to be like, whew, okay, I have a little more sea legs here.
Yeah.
I know it didn't feel good when I didn't react for my higher self last time. Let me try again.
Yeah. And I think like taking ownership when you mess up too, like helps with the shame so that you don't like sit in the shame.
Yeah.
Because like when I like pop off instead of like being like kind and like understanding, or when I assume the worst in someone instead of trying to assume the best, immediately just like instead of feeling like shame and embarrassment, I just like like take ownership, like drop the ego, like own what you've done, like apologize or like make them end. And I feel like it does help like get out of that shame spiral because you're like, I'm acknowledging that I didn't make the right choice. Most of the time, I think our shame has to do with like the way other people perceive the way we act. Being able to just be like, hey, like, I'm so sorry that our conversation went that way. I shouldn't have reacted that way. Like, can we start over? It kind of like nicks the shame in the butt pretty quickly and you can like move on, let go of it.
So much in conflict is two people's needs being opposite. And oftentimes the opposite person doesn't understand what the need is that the other person has.
Yeah.
So it's like two people are trying to get their needs met. Neither one know the need the other is trying to get met, and they're on two different wavelengths. So if you can take that pause, or you have the inner peace to just say like, oh, I need to cool this here. I need to cool this conversation, or I need to step away so I can like really get some perspective on it. You can feel it in your body when it's the reactive response, and you can feel it in your body when you're like, oh, my higher self can kind of see like what's going on here.
Yeah. Okay. Back to manifestation. What do you think it is that like stops people from being able to like fully manifest their dream life and desires? Like what gets in the way?
Lack of self-worth and confidence in their ability, self-purpose. And really what that roots down to is just not feeling safe to go after it. That if they go after it for some way, shape, or reason, they're not going to be safe. Whether they won't be safe because if they try to do it and they get rejected or they fail, whether they're not safe because now they become a target because they're too successful, whether it's they think they're going to get judgment from their family or their friend group won't understand what their passions are. But we do so much self-censoring and holding ourselves back. We're really tribal people, like rooted way, 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 way back in time. To leave the tribe and be on your own meant death. You were going to get attacked by a bear. You literally couldn't survive without the group and the unit. And so that is in our genetic makeup still. So when anytime we're in a social group or in a family unit or in some sort of tribe nowadays, and we go to do something different, we go to follow our dreams, we go to follow our manifestations, our passion, there's that automatic response of like, don't fly too big, like don't get separated. And we're not in that day and age anymore. But until we feel safe, until we see to believe it's possible to get there and feel safe, until we work with all of the limiting beliefs on the back end, we're not going to get there. We're going to keep self-sabotaging in little and big ways because it just doesn't feel like it's possible.
Do you think it's like a lot of people too who like don't feel like worthy of the abundance that could come with like success in their dreams, whether it's like a relationship or the career or like even money?
I think that's a big piece. I think abundance is interesting. We're doing a money challenge this summer and going through it and really looking at it through the lens of like, yes, okay, get to your next level of money. But what is abundance? What is the story of abundance versus what is the story of scarcity in your life? And how is that running the show? Because you see people who are at high levels of success, high levels of net worth, and internally they're terrified. Even you look at, we give the example of like a billionaire could on paper look so successful, have all of the things, but if they're underpaying their employees, if they're not living in integrity, if they constantly feel like they have to keep performing on a hamster wheel, otherwise everything will be taken from them, that's scarcity. Hoarding money is scarcity. So it's like, what is that inner definition of authentic abundance? And what does that look like? It's so different for everyone. Everyone thinks it's the same. Everyone thinks it's just more money. But what does money represent to you? What do you think you're going to get from having more money? And if you pursue having more money or success or abundance from that authentic perspective, you're going to get a lot closer and more fulfilled than you would had you just chased the material item.
Yeah, because I think abundance can mean like anything, like, or rich can mean anything, and peace can mean anything too. And if you don't believe that you're worthy of it, you're never going to have it. I mean, in my career, I've always been someone that's like very go-getter, like executing. Like I feel like I am like worthy and confident of like the life I want. But then like there are other parts of my life, I mean, starting with my mental health, where it's like I didn't feel I was worthy of peace. Like peace is a form of abundance too. Or like there's people who have a scarcity mindset around like a partner or not finding someone. So it's really interesting, I think, to like kind of call out like the parts of your life that you don't feel worthy of.
Your perception, your subconscious perception of your self-worth is what you're reflecting out and manifesting. This is the missing piece. It's not get in the vortex and you'll manifest the things you want. It's like you have to subconsciously truly believe that you are worthy of the things that you desire and they will match up with you. But when you feel that you're not, that is when you hit these roadblocks and these things jump out in your way. And you may get to the material level of them, but the thing you were chasing never fulfills you in the right way. So can you look at whatever you're manifesting through the lens of your abundance, through authenticity?
That's so good. How do you guys get people to get to the root of their authentic desires? Like how do you, is there any exercises you guys have to like get people to realize like, okay, this is what I need to be manifesting for my life?
Yeah. So couple things. One, when we have them create their manifestation list, we have them do a little like questionnaire after, which is really understanding what do they think this manifestation is going to bring them? What is the feeling they think it's going to bring them? Practically, what do they think it's going to bring? Because usually people are manifesting something material.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're getting more people manifesting change of internal states, which is like, I'm like so excited for that. But a lot of people are manifesting the material. So it's like, okay, strip it down. Why do you want this? What about this thing do you think it's going to give you? You know, can you detach from it looking a very specific way? Especially when people are making partnership manifestation lists. There's so many physical attributes that are on there that we're like, but why? What do you think having the tall guy is going to bring you? Are you actually looking for a partner that makes you feel safe? Are you looking for a partner that lets you be in your feminine? You know, like get to the root, get to the deeper why, because if you can manifest from that clarity, you can get a lot more closer to your authentic desires. The other thing that we do is it's called your authentic code, but we have this long questionnaire and a meditation that takes you back to childhood and thinking about the things that really lit you up as a kid, and also taking inventory of like the little places your subconscious is showing you where your authenticity is coming out. For example, one thing you guys could do right now is like take a look at the photos you have in your save folder on Instagram or the things you pin on Pinterest. That's probably an expression of some of the pillars of your authenticity. It may not be that exact item or thing that you saved, but it's the essence of it. So if you have a folder that's all fashion stuff, you might really love self-expression. Like that might be a pillar of your authenticity. And so saying, you know what, I'm not just spending money on clothes because I think it's cool and I want to fit in. I love self-expression. If you can honor that and double down on that, then you're going to get closer and closer to your authenticity.
Yeah, I think we really struggle as like a society to like listen to our thoughts, like, or like keep track of like what we're thinking about all the time and what we care about. I've started like actually trying to like keep track of like the things that I like think about and like talk, like positive things that I think about and talk about constantly, like out of passion. And I think that's like another way you can look and really see like, oh wow, like I really care about these things. Or maybe you don't know what your purpose is or like your authentic desire is. Like you can kind of look, and I'm sure there's like kind of a common thread between those things, kind of like the saved on Instagram.
Or even like, okay, if you're putting money aside to save up, what are you saving up for? If you got a big paycheck today and you could spend it on whatever lit up your soul more than anything, what would that be? You know, like these kinds of questions can kind of just poke at your subconscious a little bit to see like what is really driving you towards these things.
What is like the biggest like manifestation in your life?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I manifested my partner, my fiance, our little Labradoodle, which I'm obsessed with, our home, my absolute dream oasis. But I think beyond all of those things, which were huge and like have changed my life for the better in so many ways, it's self-worth. It's like the relationship to self, because that foundation to me is absolutely priceless. Being with yourself, you are the person you are interacting every single day of your life with. And if your experience internally is a negative one, imagine that every single day. Like if you can transform that into one where you really see yourself, you love yourself. The fact that I can say like, I love myself, I thought that was like a euphemism. I was like, yeah, I get it. Like I love myself. But like, I feel that on a deep level. There are still things that, you know, I feel insecure about, or, you know, scarcity or fear or whatever pops up in different ways. But on a deep level, I know that there is love for myself. And that relationship to self to me is like beyond
Yeah.
anything.
I know you've talked a lot about like different tools and exercises you guys have today, but let's say someone's listening right now who just heard you say that and they're like, well, I do not love myself. I don't even understand like what that's like. Like, what would you say to that?
I would say self-love comes from really starting to listen to yourself, starting to value those little things that you are excited by, that light you up, that you want to do, those curiosities. It comes from seeing yourself, seeing your interests, your passions as valuable, as something to honor, as something to follow. And yeah, it's like building Legos, you start with one little brick, one moment of it, and then another, then another, then another. And then over time, you're like, wait, I relate to myself so differently now.
Yeah, I think for me, and I mean, this is totally going to show more of my personality too, but like self-love is really hard for me.
Yeah.
And showing myself like love and like moving away from thoughts of self-hatred has been like a huge journey for me. But a huge part of that has been like, how can I at least start respecting myself? And I think self-respect creates like self-love, especially for me. Like if I can respect myself, and like integrity is so big for me too. Like if I can look at myself, the work I'm doing, the things I'm saying, and my actions and decisions with partners, family, like in business, and like respect what I'm doing, I can feel like a sense of like, okay, I have so much respect for myself that I can say that I really love like who I am and what I'm doing.
When you don't have that, or you do things that are out of integrity, it's like it breaks off a piece of your soul. Like you feel fractured in some way. And it's, again, a habit, the muscle that you have to build over time. But integrity and authenticity to me are like one and the same. Like if you are living your authenticity, you're living your integrity. And you can feel it when you're like, that was out of my integrity, or like I shouldn't have done that, or like I said yes to that, but I didn't want to do it. Like you can feel where you're off, but just getting curious about going back to sensation in the body, like what does it feel like when I'm coming from my integrity, when I'm coming from my authenticity, when I'm coming from my truth? What does that sound like? Where do I feel truth or peace in my body? Like starting with those little questions and just noticing them again and again and again, it's going to make a big shift.
I feel like we're so not in touch with our body either. Like I feel like I even struggle with the amount of sessions I've done with people where they're like, where do you feel it in your body? I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know. How can, especially like in our society, but I think women really struggle to get in their back in their body as well. How can we start to get more in our body?
You can start on the outside and then move your way in. So start like maybe moving your fingers a little bit, shake your wrist, move your shoulders, start moving your hips around a little bit, but start to bring movement slowly back into your body, because then you can feel the sensation. Even just like patting down your body. Like it sounds so silly and simple, but it's like, oh, I'm in a body. Okay, I feel this. Yep, I feel my legs, I feel my knees. Like even just little practices like that. If you look up somatic experiencing, there are incredible modalities in inter-body connection and just nervous system healing through that lens. But put on music, dance, like anything that gets you to drop back in, exercise, hiking, getting in nature, anything that drops you into your body. And the one caveat I'll say with exercise is sometimes people use exercise as a way to numb through something versus an in-tuned exercise. So it's like you're going there to not think and you're pushing your body and you're not even aware of what your body's doing, versus like, what position is my tailbone in? And do I feel my glute muscle? And like, can I feel this? I think that intentional piece, even if you can't do it the whole workout, the whole exercise, have a couple moments where you're like, am I actually feeling my muscles? Do I know what's happening here? Oh my gosh, I'm flexing my foot. I should be pointing. Like, can you feel those little movements just so you can start to feel safe moving in your body again?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing parts of your story. I feel like we were talking kind of before we started recording about like how emotional and like impactful it must feel to like be able to be a part of a platform that has inspired so much healing in people. So it's really, really impressive. It's so exciting and cool, especially as someone kind of like in the same sphere that like finds so much like energy and healing of my own by like helping other people as well. Like it's so impressive what you guys have done.
I just think like lead with your heart, in career and business and life and whatever. Like, what is the thing that you are so passionate about? I mean, I think about this work and the community and like, what can we create next? And what tool do we need to do all of the time? And I have this like endless battery to create in that portal. So it's like part of that for someone else is like figure out what that thing is that they just like love to create in and go do that.
Yeah. I ask everybody who comes on the podcast, looking back at your journey, your healing journey, your career journey, how do you see it?
I see it as I like wouldn't change it, because I feel like I am who I am today because of all of that. Even during those hard times, for anyone out there experiencing that, like it will get better. It is possible. I promise. Even though it might not feel like it, you can transform so much faster. You even know.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it feels so hard and slow in the moment. And then I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I'm a completely different person. And it hasn't even, it's a smidge of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Please share your socials, and then also TBM and the podcast. I'll put everything in the show notes too.
Yeah.
But just so people know where to find you.
Yeah. Mostly on Instagram stories, Jessica Ashley Gill. You can find Expanded Podcast by To Be Magnetic, everywhere podcasts are. YouTube, we have video, and Spotify, we have video. To Be Magnetic on Instagram, tobemagnetic.com. You guys can use code Jessica, all caps, if you want 15% off the membership. If you have any questions about the membership, let me know. I'm obsessed. I could talk about it forever.
Like slide into her DMs.
Yes. I'm constantly chatting in my DMs.
Okay, perfect. That's what I'm going to start doing then. Yeah. Like, hey.
Yes. I have a question about this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a Q&A. Too many people have questions.
Thank you so, so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you leave here feeling motivated and inspired. Do not forget to rate and review the pod on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and don't forget to follow How I See It Pod so you can keep up with podcast updates and see who's coming on next. And if you're not already, come join the fam and follow at How Han Sees It. Thank you guys.